back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and Rick and Morty Season 4 is back with a stellar premiere episode, Edge of Tomorty Rick Die Rickpeat, which does not hold back with subtle animation jokes. It's got Ricks and dicks. Like Jessica's funeral selfie, every Morty death is worth snapshotting and obsessively zooming in on. If you're interested in my reachy and preachy analysis of the episode and how it defies major rules of the series, check out our after show Rick'splained with special guests from the Rick and Morty staff, and subscribe to our Rick'splained podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts for early audio versions of the stuff. Here, I'm gonna go shot by shot through this episode to break down every detail you might have missed to give you even more reasons to love that Rick and Morty's back. Before I begin, special thanks to Current and their Black Card Premium Card accounts for sponsoring this breakdown. More on them in a bit. Spoiler warning if you haven't seen this episode yet, and let's get started. Okay, the episode's title is a nod to the 2014 Tom Cruise film Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat, based on the graphic novel All You Need Is Kill. The movie is a kind of a cross between Groundhog Day and Independence Day, with Cruise's repeat deaths during an alien war, resetting his day within a time loop, much like Rick in this episode. In the opening scene at breakfast, Morty cyberstalks Jessica's gross funeral selfie. Instagram name Yassica. Hashtag Nanolife, hashtag YOLO, hashtag Instagramma. And wearing a necklace she got from the Jimmy Buffett themed chain restaurant Margaritaville. Ever since last season's finale, Rick is now at the bottom of the family hierarchy, having to now ask permission to take Morty on an adventure.
Morty, would you please accompany me to 4x01 Prime for death crystals?
Definitely some foreboding wordplay there with the planet name 4x01 Prime, a place where you can find death crystals that give you foreboding premonitions. The opening credits tease some new shots that may or may not be in upcoming episodes this season. There's a giant monstrous Morty head in a space battle who's shown up in other promos we've seen this season. A robotic Morty fighting snakes. Maybe these are the snakes that Rick hides in a tube to trick people into thinking he has magic powers. There's also a shot of Rick fighting a jacked old dude wearing 2 rings. Maybe there's a Thanos reference in the works there. There's another giant Morty, and then the family hiding from a 2-headed goose. Might just be one of the joke throwaway ones that they put in there. Rick and Morty weave through an asteroid field similar to Han in Empire Strikes Back. And notice the asteroids have this inner indigo tinted glow, the same color of the death crystals. Presumably these asteroids crashing to the surface are what results in the geodes where the crystals can be harvested. Morty touches a crystal and gets his first glimpse of his infinite possible deaths, which show up again and again throughout this episode, and it's filled with fun Easter eggs if you look at them. Let's break down each of these scenarios that we can see. Morty reaches up for a book on a library top shelf and falls off the ladder, similar to his death in the Roy VR video game. Morty gets fried in an electric chair, surrounded by some interesting looking characters. Morty gets pinned beneath a dumpster by the bully. Morty scales off the cliff wall that we saw him climbing in the season 4 trailer. Morty gets his head caught in an elevator automatic door, gets decapitated as the elevator descends the floor down. Morty chokes on spaghetti beside a greedy bobe. Morty drives a tiny orange car, gets crushed by a log, similar to the death in the scene in Final Destination 2, similar to the premonition plot of this episode. Morty checks out girls flirting at a party and accidentally drinks something toxic. The bully slams Morty's head with a fire extinguisher. Morty and Rick drive a car off a cliff like Thelma and Louise. Morty jumps off a building and gets chopped up in helicopter blades. Morty opens some Russian dolls. It ends with a grenade that blows him up, presumably a nod to the show Russian Dolls, similar time loop structure. Morty's flesh melts away into a skeleton. Morty walks on the beach and gets hit in the head by a coconut. Morty and Rick spill a barrel of acid and the car splashes it on him. The bully stabs Morty through the mouth with a pole. An older Morty smokes on the toilet and then clutches his chest. A younger Morty uses the toilet but then gets sucked into space. Morty tries to defuse the neutrino bomb from the Vindicators episode, but it explodes. Morty eats a red berry that causes his head to inflate red and pop. The bully crushes Morty's head like the mountain did to the Viper in Game of Thrones. Morty clutches a fence and fries in a nuclear blast, a reference to the T2 Judgment Day scene. An older Morty looks at his phone while crossing the street and gets swiped by this truck. It's a Servine Institute truck. I'll go back to the Rick and Time episode. Ironically, a deer truck hits a human this time. Morty falls down the stairs. Morty gets stabbed while on a knife throwing board. Morty gets weighed down underwater. Morty gets eaten by the bird-like creatures of Fruity Land from the ABC's The Beth episode. Tiny Rick runs across a giant computer keyboard, but then Tiny Morty doesn't make the jump. Morty ODs on heroin and dies despite trying to be resuscitated by his lover. Morty gets stabbed by Farmer Rick from the Tales of the Citadel episode. The bully impales naked Morty on a shower head. Morty's bully chops his head off in another one. The bully stabs him with an American flag. Morty opens an egg and gets attacked by an alien-style facehugger. Morty dies of thirst in the desert. The bully cuts off his head with a garbage bin, and the bully freezes him in a cube of ice. And then, although fewer of them, we also get glimpses of Rick's future deaths, which are also pretty interesting. Rick gets his head squashed between 2 tree trunks. Rick gets crushed under a hydraulic lift, it looks like. A Morty chest burster bursts from Rick's chest, another alien reference. Rick gets assimilated into a mutant Morty head mass. Scuba Rick gets eaten by this giant anglerfish monster, maybe a nod to the unseen Ricklantis mix-up adventure. Morty and Rick fall down a cave onto a rocky surface. Rick drives his ship drunk and hits a traffic light. Rick goes into a giant Play-Doh shape maker. Rick is tied up and burnt at a stake. Cocoon Rick is eaten by one of the giant telepathic spiders from the Ricks Must Be Crazy episode. Rick is eaten by trolls, it looks like. Pickle Rick is eaten by a dog. Giant Jack Squanch from the Wedding Squanchers episode rips Rick in half. Rick and Morty get crushed in a trash compactor, just like the one on the Death Star in the first Star Wars film. Rick gets murdered by a robot version of himself, and both Rick and Morty get swallowed by a giant flower. Now, Morty's struggle to fly the ship causes Rick to die in the crash. Hollow Rick tells Morty how to clone Rick. Notice that the cloning machine includes the yellow, cyan, and magenta colors of a color printer. Rick's mind wakes up in a clone in another reality.
Operation Phoenix initiated.
What the hell? I axed this protocol. What are you doing with my clone? It's okay, I'm you. I took my own clone vat offline a couple seasons ago.
Rick is meta-ly calling back the episode Big Trouble in Little Sanchez, in which he killed off his clones. Rick realizes that this reality, and most of the alternate ones he goes to, are fascist. It actually makes sense that the fascist universes would be the ones that kept their clone protocols, given the whole Nazi genetic experiments that they did. Fascist Rick and Fascist Morty carry German Luger pistols, and their logo is a sort of swastika formed by crossed wrenches. The time travel stuff box is updated each reality to become fascist time travel stuff, shrimp time travel stuff, and wasp time travel stuff. And Fascist Rick has a photo shaking the hand of the now fascist president with the note, "Thanks for sterilizing China," kind of a callback to last season's finale when Rick called out how China owned the White House.
Does China know about that deal breaker?
China doesn't piss on the White House.
Well, why would they? I'm sure it was expensive.
There's also a hidden meaning behind the whole character of Fascist Morty. But before I continue, thanks to Current for sponsoring this breakdown. Current is a mobile bank account that comes with a Visa debit card that has no minimum balance, no overdrafts, and no hidden fees. If you, like me, have been stung in the past by normal bank overdraft fees, so evil, you know it feels a bit like Mr. Goldenfold getting stung by wasp stingers. With a Black Premium Card account from Current, you get your paycheck 2 days faster when you set up your direct deposits. You can even switch over your direct deposit right in the app. Current is a true debit card, not a prepaid card, so you can connect it to Cash App or Venmo, and even get cash back at the register in stores. It also works with Apple Pay and Google Wallet. You can even deposit checks into your account using the app's camera. Current is way better than old banks and prepaid cards, and it only takes 2 minutes to sign up, and your Current card will be mailed to you for free. Current is available on both iOS and Android in the United States. Just go to current.com/newrockstars to sign up your Black Premium Card account today. Okay, back to Fascist Morty. This character, when you read in between his lines, plays out kind of like an analog from the writer's point of view of the most toxic of their show's fan base. Think about it. Fascist Morty hates Rick for being too political. Fascist Morty pines for a vague good old days, but only talks about what he hates. And he admits that he only really likes Mr. Meeseeks. And he screams,
You will go where I want you to go!
Later, Rick makes another reference to the whole alt-right fringe of the fans.
And drop the Hitler stuff. Wasp Morty's been on some crazy message boards.
Rick kills Fascist Morty on this adventure with Gearhead, aka Revolio Clockberg Jr. from the Morty Night Run episode, and when the Meeseeks kills him, they all die silently in space, as real space deaths terrifyingly are. Morty ignores the protesting Hollow Ricks. They carry signs, "We're here, we're sheer, we see through you, go clone your Rick, we will not be ignored, stop walking through us." And there's a Berkeley Hollow Rick who carries a "Legalize It" sign. Rick respawns in a shrimp universe that is also fascist.
Honestly, you're doing me a huge favor by being shrimp instead of fascists. What? God damn it, when did this shit become the default?
This fascist shrimp dimension includes a Nazi-style Zeppelin, shrimp SS officers, and shrimp German shepherds. In math class, as always, Mr. Goldenfold's blackboard is filled with amusingly stupid notes. Babies come from space, an 8 = D dick thing, another one with Venn diagram bubbles forming dick, 1 ass plus 1 ass equals 2 asses, M to the A power equals T to the H power. Morty has detention along with Corey B. Behind Morty is a notice forbidding flossing. No flossing! And then outside, the psycho bully references Pixar's Coco, but Morty brushes him off.
Just go with the flow.
Creepily, either intentionally or unintentionally, Morty is calling back his assault by Mr. Jellybean in season 1.
Go with the flow. You die tomorrow, no matter what. It's what bullies call a fait accompli.
Fait accompli is a French term meaning done deal. It's something that has already happened by the time those who are affected by it learn about it. Rick respawns again as a teddy bear, but also fascist, of course.
This too fascistish? Nope.
And the lab is filled with Nazi teddy bear regalia, with old Nazi medals and other teddy clones incubating in the background. Morty's bully fight includes this bully, who we actually saw in the Something Rick This Way Comes episode, getting beaten up by Jacked Rick and Jack Summer. Someone said he kind of looks like an older version of Randall from Recess. And on the wall behind them is graffiti, the initials E and H, a nod to the director of this episode, Erica Hayes, longtime story artist for the show. Police arrive on the scene.
We've got an Akira-type situation going on behind the mall.
Obviously, this is a nod to the anime Akira, in which Tetsuo, like Morty this episode, becomes an unstoppable super soldier who transforms into an amorphous blob when he's consumed by his own desires. Using Rick's weaponry, Morty turns the cops into meat cubes with legs. He sends a legion of Meeseeks on soldiers, rips apart their DNA, melting them, turning them to ash. One of them Cronenberg's, a nod to the season 1 Rick Potion number 9 episode. Before making a great gaslighting joke, the news anchor says,
"Will we all fall to his deadly touch?"
The episode before this, the season 3 finale, showed Rick having a technology that can kill people just by having them touch him. Rick calls back that with Jerry later this episode.
That finger has AIDS now.
In his trial, Morty wins over the judge, voiced by Sherry Shepard, by following the death crystal to stammer the final words of her husband.
I will always remember our time in Peru. He loves you, little sparrow.
This is a nod to another time loop film, Arrival, in which, well, spoiler warning for Arrival, Amy Adams uses her understanding of the future to save the world by telling the Chinese leader of his late spouse's final words. Nancy Grace comments on the trial, and notice the news ticker at the bottom. No matter how you pronounce LaCroix, you sound stupid. Judge of Akira Boy case commits suicide. Center for Suicide Prevention calls judge's death tragic, but judges shouldn't believe in ghosts. In the sports bar watching this news, there's a banner for the Squanchers, a nod, of course, to Squanch. There's also jerseys Ross 47 and Smith, maybe as in Jerry Smith, Morty Smith, Beth Smith, 21. In Times Square, there's a billboard for Trover Saves the Universe, a game co-created by Justin Roiland. Other banners show Corp America Owns You, a cologne called Not Sweat, an energy drink called Energy Juice with a similar pink wave design as Turbulent Juice, and an ad for the Broadway musical Avenue Q. Rick respawns again in the wasp dimension, wasps being the most assholey insects, of course, but not fully fascist.
We eat our prey alive, and when we don't, we lay our eggs in their eyeballs so that our young can feast on their brains when they hatch. When you're born that big an asshole, the least you can do is have a little empathy.
The wasp family horrifically feeds on the caterpillar version of Mr. Goldenfold, and then they return to Rick's lab where Rick finds his Boglin. Boglins were the toy puppets from the 80s and early 90s, and a Kirkland Costco brand Red Meeseeks.
What do you want?
In our premiere episode of Rick Explained last week, writer Ryan Ridley actually revealed to us that Red Meeseeks was a longtime pitch of his.
I always pitched, let's do Red Meeseeks.
For these kind of inside takes, again, be sure to subscribe to our Rick Explained podcast feed.
Don't tell me you gained sentience and tried to take over. What? That is some AI racist accusatory Isaac Asimov bull.
Isaac Asimov wrote, among many things, I, Robot, a story about AI robots who turn on humans. And they find Morty in the desert overtaken by feral fluid in this sinister outgrowth. They free him, but then it takes over Hollow Rick, gives him a corporeal form, turning him evil, and Wasp Rick takes him out exactly as he foreshadowed he would. The end of this episode wraps up similarly to the pilot episode of the series. Beth and Jerry scold Rick for taking Morty on a dangerous adventure. Last time it was mega seeds, this time death crystals. Rick gets out of it, leading to this 100-year rant. Jerry pronounces Akira an anime in annoyingly overcompensating attempts of a Japanese pronunciation.
Turning our son into an Akira? I don't want to see any more anime stuff.
Rick and Morty's closing rant is crashed by Summer, whose heckling Rick discovers via playback.
Oh, and then you guys can get married and like each other off in a
Summer is referencing Doc and Marty, the crude X-rated Back to the Future parody that Roiland made for Channel 101 that Rick and Morty was very loosely based on. And in the post-credit scene, Morty learns the future of growing old with Jessica that he steered toward was a lie, that she only wants to work in hospice for the lonely people with no one in their lives.
Hey Morty, quick favor. What, cover me in gasoline and spiders? Fine, yeah, I'm in. Wasn't my first pitch, but hey, I'm not gonna waste this opportunity.
And the post-episode tribute is for Mike Mendel, longtime Emmy-winning producer of The Simpsons and Rick and Morty, who sadly passed away this past September. The recent season premiere of The Simpsons was also dedicated to his memory. How does this Rick and Morty season 4 premiere rank among the other season premieres? Rick Shank Redemption, A Wrinkle in Time, and the pilot episode. Comment down below with your thoughts. And thanks again to Current for helping us make this breakdown. Again, give Current a try at current.com/newrockstars. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA Voss. Follow New Rockstars on socials, and subscribe to New Rockstars on YouTube, and subscribe to our Rick Explained podcast feed. Thank you for joining me, and was it just me, or was Morty's wail kind of a brown note? It was just me.